It's early in the process, and it's definitely early in the process to be saying something like this, but I do want to talk about it. I think that this 2024 Georgia Bulldogs team has some shades of the 2021 team, right? And off of the rip, you're like, well, what are you talking about? That 2021 team had the most stacked defense. We're not really viewing Georgia's defense this year in that light. I want to take us back to the summer before that season. This is my first year really covering the team in depth, right? 2020 is kind of when I started with Dawg Posts. The talk was about the offense, and I'm not making the comparison that I think Georgia's defense is going to be like it was in 2021, but I think that this team is loaded with NFL talent that is going to be gone after this year. And I'm going to run through that list. This time, most of it being on the offensive side of the football, which is very interesting. But yeah, flashback 3 summers ago, SEC Media Days, the talk was about Georgia's offense with JT Daniels and Eric Gilbert and George Pickens and DeAndre Cook and White. And it was supposed to be incredible, right? And didn't know about Bowers yet, right? You talked about Darnell Washington at that point. Well, this time, the hype is around Georgia's offense, and I think that is the rightful place that it should be. But there's a lot of older guys on this team, which is the case in 2021. When you go through that list, I've got names, and I want to talk about, in terms of the NFL talent that this team's going to produce, I think you're going to have a high number of draft picks next year. I think 8 was low compared to the last 2 years of 15 and 10. I think we're talking about double digits again when we look at Georgia's draft a year from now. So how do you win national championships? NFL talent is one of the biggest reasons why. Georgia 21, Georgia 22, Michigan this past year, you tell me those were a bunch of NFL guys on that team. Alabama 2020, LSU 2019, Clemson 2018, Alabama 2017, Georgia 2017. These teams have NFL talent and are stacked with it. And this Georgia team has a lot of it that's going to be out there on the field. And I'm going to run through that. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post. Comparing the 24 season already to the 21 season, I know. Don't get too ahead of yourself, Ryan. But I just want to talk about why I think there are shades of that, and it is a little bit different. Real quick, our newsletter, I have a link to that in the description of this video down below for all of those who are new viewers, new Dawg Post people. Check that out. It's an easy way for us to, when we're pushing out content, we'll give you a notification, right? Breaking news. The other day, I had to push out that newsletter a couple days ago about Kirby Smart getting that new contract extension. You want to be learning it quick. The Dawg Post newsletter is a good way to stay tapped in with what's going on with the Georgia Bulldogs. So you look at the 2021 team and just the ridiculous amount of NFL talent, right? You look through it. Zamir White, like on offense, Zamir White, James Cook, even the depth with McIntosh and Milton. And then you go to the defense, and it's like, well, all these first-round picks, Channing Tindall, Nakobe Dean, Darion Kendrick, Devontae Wyatt, Latavius Brini, like Jalen Carter, all of these guys were so stacked, or this team was so stacked that they just kind of swallowed everybody up by being better than them. And that's how it was with this defense. Well, I think this offense can put up a lot of points. And I think they're going to have, I already made a video the other day about how I think there are a ton of potential first-round picks. I think you could see as many as 6 for Georgia next year. Is that going to happen? Probably not. It's just what the potential is. But I've got Georgia's depth chart pulled up, and I'm looking at it. And honestly, just to prove my point, let's start with the defensive side of the ball, which I think at this point in time has less known NFL talent. Like, we know that guy's going to be in the league. Malachi Starks will be a first-round pick this coming year. Both of the corners are going to be subjected to be drafted with Julian Humphrey and Dalen Everett. Smile Mondon, Michael Williams, Warren Brinson, Nazir Stackhouse. We're talking about 7 guys on the defense that might get drafted. And if there's a breakout from an older guy like a Terry Ingram Dawkins or somebody like that, then you might see those guys get drafted too. So already I think that there's like possibly 7 guys on Georgia's defense that could get drafted. And then you move to the offense. 4 out of the 5 offensive line, maybe the entire offensive line, maybe more than that. Right? When you talk about these guys being able to test, Ernest Green could be a first-round pick. Dylan Fairchild, if he plays enough, he's going to get drafted. Jared Wilson, he'd be 1 year as a starter. I hesitate on that, and we have to see what he's going to look like. Tate Rouch is going to get drafted. So 1, 2, 3. Truss could definitely get drafted. Maybe not. So let's just not put him there. There's a reason why he came back. So that's just 3 offensive linemen off the rip. Micah Morris, I'm going to throw him in there too. He's a mauler, and I think that he could get drafted if he gets enough tape on film this year. Oscar Delp could get drafted. Benjamin Urasek could get drafted. Oscar, I think he might end up coming back for 4, but we'll see. Trevor Etienne might end up, he's probably a top 5 running back in this coming draft. Probably, maybe top 3. Carson Beck. Dylan Bell. If he has a good season, that's an NFL receiver. Dominic Lovett. 10 on offense. And I named 17 on defense. Or 7 on defense, which means 17. I think that this Georgia team is that stacked with NFL talent. And guess what? Like I iterated a minute or two ago, that's what wins championships. There's a lot of things that win championships. Kirby Smart is one of the reasons why Georgia wins championships. Right? But he gets these guys in here, and we always say over and over, it starts with the players, and they have to have the guys. Well, they've got all of these guys. I mean, just off the bat, if you missed my video the other day, these are players I think have a legitimate shot to be a first-round pick. Carson Beck, obviously. Malachi Starks and Michael Williams. Those 3 are the ones that I point to and I think first-round pick. But if Tate Ratledge is an All-American season again, he could go at the end of the first round as like one of the first interior offensive linemen off the board. If Ernest Green has a huge season, we've seen in the last 2 drafts, Broderick Jones, Broderick Jones, Amarius Mims, they were both just first-round picks. Jamari Salyer was a guy that I thought could have been a higher pick, ends up being a really late-round pick, and he started a bunch of games for the Los Angeles Chargers. There aren't a lot of teams built like this. There aren't a lot, there aren't. Alabama football depth chart. I'm naming the ones that have teams like this. Ohio State football depth chart. Let's do Ohio State. Let's look at it because this is one that's comparable. All the receivers are future NFL guys. Let's just be honest with ourselves. 2 running backs. So we're talking about like 5 guys right there. I don't think they have a quarterback that's draft worthy at the moment. And then you look on defense, Caleb Downs, Latham, Denzel Burke, Jack Sawyer. These are guys that could get drafted. JT Tuimoloau. I don't think I said that right at all. Don't clip that, please. That was really bad. Not as many as Georgia, right? And we're talking about this Ohio State team. But when I just look at this off the rip, how many of these guys are NFL prospects for this coming draft? Not as many. And I do think Ohio State's roster really stacks up with Georgia's. I do think that that's a team that if Georgia played them, Georgia would have a hard time with Ohio State, right? I think that Georgia's going to win the national championship this year. I haven't verbalized any of that yet, but that's how I feel right now. Media Days is going to be in a couple months. We're going to get to learn a lot about these teams. I think you can get a really good vibe sometimes from hearing what the message for the season is. Hearing, are these guys really locked in? What's the goal here? It's one of the first times that you get to really look deeply into the next season. Spring is spring, and things change after spring. But in the summer, we'll learn a lot more. In the fall camp, we'll learn a lot more. And then obviously, you can't really learn about it in depth until you actually get to the season. Another shade of it, you start off with a big game. And during both of Georgia's championship runs, they started off with a big game. You get tested early. You understand what it takes to win a really tough football game. And you win, outright. Georgia destroyed Oregon. And defensively, Georgia destroyed Clemson. Bad offensive showing. Hurt JT Daniels. Weird offensive game for the Dogs. Apparently I'm saying that wrong. In 2021. You get to start that off again with Clemson, right? This season could end up being more legendary in ways, and it won't be just because of the Keely Ringo moment and first time in 40 years and Stetson Bennett's story. Nothing will top what happened in 2021. Just going to put that out there. Georgia could be like 17-0 and just destroy everybody, or 16-0, whatever it is that's possible, and absolutely obliterate everyone. It won't be as special as 21, but it will be special, and I think it really can be. And you got a quarterback in Carson Beck that really wants it. I'm telling you right now, he really wants it. And I think that Georgia can pull off some pretty legendary stuff again this year with all the NFL talent they have. Thanks for watching.